The debate over aid to Ukraine continues on Capitol Hill, and while some are calling for the U.S. to end its support against Russia's aggression, several members of the House recently visited the country in a show of support. That includes Virginia Democrat Abigail Spanberger from the 7th District, who's up late with me in studio here on the Final Five. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
How was the trip? What precipitated this? What motivated you to want to go to Ukraine and see what's happening firsthand?
Well, I'm a member of the Intelligence Committee in Congress, and so it was an Intelligence Committee trip. There was 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and the trip was led by the chairman of the Intel Committee. And the whole goal of this meeting was to ensure that we were meeting with U.S. military and government personnel in Poland who work on this issue, and then traveling into Ukraine, meeting with Ukrainian leadership, U.S. Embassy personnel, and ultimately with President Zelensky.
We are nearing the 3rd anniversary of, or entering the 3rd year, rather, of the Russian invasion into Ukraine, and it was something that people thought was going to be over and done very quickly, that Russia would prevail. Clearly, that has not been the case. This was something that had a lot of bipartisan support on Capitol Hill for a long while. Clearly, over the last year or so, there have been a lot of people who have said maybe it's time to pull back a little bit. Right now, there's a debate going on over foreign aid. The Senate took it up last night. The question is, will it ever see the light of day in the House? Speaker Johnson says he would prefer not to do that.
The reality is that it has to continue. There were low expectations of what might happen initially when there was the Russian invasion. People did not think that Ukraine would prevail, and what they have demonstrated is an extraordinary capacity and tenacity in their fight for their own freedom, in their fight for democracy, and it is within U.S. national security interests. In fact, it is a U.S. national security priority for us to continue supporting the Ukrainians. That's the provision of aid, provision of support, as they do the fighting on the ground. We, the United States, have demonstrated exceptional leadership in bringing our partner countries together to support our Ukrainian allies, and we have to continue doing it. Doing so is what will ensure that they have the tools they need to fight and ultimately win this war, which is a war certainly not only for their freedom, but democratic ideals and American values.
One of the complaints among many of the opponents is that they don't believe there's accountability, that the U.S. dollars that are going over to Ukraine are not being accounted for. Some liken it to a Zelensky slush fund. I think that might be the most extreme way of looking at this here. But there are a lot of people that wonder why their tax dollars should support Ukraine when there are problems happening in this country right now.
Well, and these are really important questions. And certainly hearing this from the American public is a question I'm always excited to answer. Hearing it from my colleagues is a bit comical because indeed in our legislation that many of my colleagues either voted for or against, we provided for the oversight that, as a legislator, as an American, I think are extraordinarily important. And in fact, when we were in Poland, we met with officials from the State Department, Office of Inspector General, and USAID, Office of Inspector General, to walk through with them where they are in some of their reporting. And they have additional reports coming out very soon. And they said, here's the bottom line up front. There is no evidence of any fraud, waste, or abuse in any of the dollars that have flown, gone from the United States to support our Ukrainian allies. And in fact, we know what that money is being spent on. It's being spent on various different weapon systems. It's being supported, providing support within country. And so there is tremendous oversight. There's tremendous oversight because we mandated it in law. And now on this most recent trip, we met with the individuals who are carrying out that oversight, both on the State Department side and USAID side.
I spoke a couple of weeks ago with former Governor Jim Gilmore, who, of course, served as an ambassador in the Trump era. And there was a report that came out about possibly somebody in the administration suggesting that maybe the U.S. needs to look at whether or not it should support the idea of a compromise with Russia, supporting the idea of ceding some territory back. What interests me about that conversation is Jim Gilmore, who is as Republican as it gets, is very much on the same page as lawmakers like yourself here, moving ahead. But then you have Mike Johnson, who says nothing, no foreign aid unless they pass border security legislation. Am I crazy, or was there not something at least put before the Congress a couple of weeks ago that could have gone down this path?
Well, this is where I want to start by thanking Governor Gilmore for the work that he's been doing. He has been making the case to people across Virginia in radio interviews and television interviews, explaining why this matters from an American perspective. And frankly, I think he demonstrates a more traditional Ronald Reagan-style Republican view that U.S. global leadership and the security of democratic values the world over is in our national security interests. But you are not crazy. Indeed, there was a bill that the Senate put forth that it took months upon months for the Senate to negotiate, a bill that had major provisions and meaning law changes related to border security, related to the asylum process, a tightening of that process, frankly, a relatively conservative piece of legislation that they put forward, and I say that from the view of from a Democratic lens, but it was a compromise. It was a bill that after months and months and months of negotiation, they put forth saying, okay, the assertion is it's not enough to fund additional support to the border. We want legislative changes about the processes. Here we go. Here's the bill. And in fact, it was moving forward in the Senate. Unfortunately, the former president came out saying that he did not want us to actually solve, us being the U.S. Congress, the problems at the border. And it was at that time that, unfortunately, Speaker Johnson, aligned with the former president, decided it was more important to have something to campaign on and rally against rather than to actually move forward and actually vote on this bill, which was going to get a lot of Republican votes and, a fair number of Democratic votes and be exactly what it is we should be doing, which is, a bill of governance that addresses some of the most pressing problems facing our country and the world.
But as you know, having once served in the majority and now in the minority, when you have that gavel, you can make those judgment calls and you can say what legislation gets to the floor or not, but it's a very slim majority.
Yeah. And frankly, protecting U.S. interests at home and abroad should be the first bill that the Speaker would want to bring forward. But, I'll just note that it's February of 2024, and we still have not finished our FY 2024 appropriations bills. Typically, in a normally functioning Congress, we would be working on FY 25 bills.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen is, unfortunately, this majority and this Speaker continue to have problems just doing the basic functioning of governing. But this is a crisis moment for our country, for the world order, and for our partners in Ukraine. And I would just impress upon you and anybody watching that our ability to support our Ukrainian partners with U.S.-made weapons systems, with support, is what will allow them to prevail as they are doing the fighting and they are doing the dying against Vladimir Putin, right, a foe of the United States of America. Ukraine wants to pivot towards the West. They want to pivot towards the United States. They are deeply devoted, and we've seen years' worth of them fighting.
Right.
This moment is such a vitally important one, not just for Ukraine, but for our own national security.
Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger on the Final Five. Thanks for coming in tonight. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.